Hello, guys. My name is Oliver and I live in Portland today. I'll share with you the most adventurous and also worst incident of my life. My wife and I were very good friends from college. And later our friendship turned into love. And after 5 years of relationship, we got married. After marriage, my life was going very nice. She cared for me a lot. I loved her too. Many years of marriage passed, but still we had no children after marriage. I used to give her a lot of gifts on her birthday and any other occasion whenever she wanted something from me. I tried my best to fulfill her every wish. But after 2 years of marriage, our financial issues started to create because I lost my job. I had many issues with my boss. The boss had a very bad attitude with all his employees. He treated them like donkeys. He took too much work from them and gave them too little salary.
I worked more than my office time.
I've worked in the office late at night. Even then I could not make my boss please. And the salary package was too low that I could not manage my monthly expenses even after so much of hard work. If a person does not get a salary, according to his hard work, it hurts his heart. But I continued my job because at that time, I had no other choice besides this. My wife also had no job at that time. In such a case, if I quit my job, then it will be difficult to manage my monthly expenses. But at that time, maybe my luck was going to be more useless. Because one day I was taking my car out of the parking lot. When I was going back from the office onto home, I mistakenly rammed my boss's car and he insulted me a lot. So I quit my job in all these circumstances. I became very depressed for some time as I could not get any other job and neither did my wife. So I was not able to meet my expenses and my wife used to taunt me one day because of my lack of job. The relationship between us was getting worse day by day because now I was sitting in an unemployment house and my wife could not bear all this because the conditions at home were not going well. I could not tackle my financial issues. My wife started getting angry every day and we had great quarrel because of this problem. On one hand, I was worried about not having a job and on the other hand, this behavior of my wife was unbearable for me and I was getting into severe depression and my mental health was going to be worse in this period. I knew one thing, that my wife will never stay by my side because I was not able to establish a relationship for us for a long time and we both will be separated because my wife's behaviors was unbelievable. Both of us were very far from each other. I realized that my wife was a greedy woman who was with me when I had money and had a good job. And now he has gone away from me because of unemployment for the last few days. My wife used to get out of the house in the morning and came to the evening because I was very angry with her and I did not have anything special interaction between us. So I did not ask her where she was gone all the day because I want my ashtray. And if sometimes I would ask her the reason for staying away from home, then she did not answer me straight after those days. She remained on her phone the whole day and did not spend any time with me. I started to suspect that maybe my wife is cheating on me or she's doing something horrible behind my back that I don't know about. All these words bothered me a lot and my mental health was going to be disturbed. But one day, a very good thing happened. Contrary to all these thoughts. One evening, I was sitting in my room in deep thoughts that what will happen next? Will I be able to get a good job or not? She came and sat near me for some time. She took my hand and kissed it and said, "My dear, these days of hardship are not over. We both got a very good job and by tomorrow, we both will go there for interviews and I'm pretty sure that we both will find it." That her attitude was completely different the way she used to treat me for the last 3 months. And she had such a bad attitude. Suddenly her fully changed and nice behavior was unbelievable for me. After all this, it was incredible that she suddenly treated me so well. I started to regret all the wrong assumptions that I was making about my wife before I started to misunderstand my wife so much while she's so good in caring for me. She's been trying hard to get me out of this predicament while I was thinking very wrongly about her. I realized that day my wife leaving home every day and being on the phone all the time to find a good job for both of us. She was working very hard for me and I felt very wrong about her character. She was not telling me anything that I should not worry too much because I was very depressed in those days when she got a good score. Then she told me this good news. But my thinking so good about my wife was just an illusion. She was really doing something horrible behind my back. But when she told me she was doing it all for the sake of both of us, a good job. I thought that maybe she loves me a lot and she is doing it all for my good, but it was not like that. It was all my compass and a beautiful illusion. The next morning, my wife and I happily got ready and went to the interview where the interviewer asked us a simple question as if he was already sitting there ready to give us this job at this time. He told us the good news that both of us had been selected for the job, that everything seemed a bit strange. But since I was in dire need of job at that time, I did not pay attention to all these things and there is no extent to happiness. The next day, my wife and I were doing our work very well at our new job. My wife and I had separate offices. My wife was working on the ground floor while my office was on the third floor at lunchtime. When I went to my wife's office to spend some time with her and have lunch together, I saw that my wife is not in her office. I called her and she did not answer my call. I was a little worried, but when I asked the guard there about my wife, he told me that she had gone with one of her friends a while ago. I was surprised that it was the first day of our job who she has become such a good friend of my wife here that she has gone to lunch with him on returning from the office. I asked my wife, "Who did you go to lunch today?" She told me that he's a very good friend of hers on her recommendation. We both did get this job. I said to my wife that I have to meet this person and thank him personally on this. My wife said that I will introduce you to this person tomorrow. The next day, my wife introduced me to this person. I did not like seeing the closeness of both of them, of each other, because I loved my wife. I started to get jealous a lot. Now I came home and told my wife that you should not establish so much close friendship with this person. Maybe I am being possessive, but I did not like my wife to be so close to that person. At this, my wife's reaction was too harsh and had a great curl with me. She taunted me about my unemployment and said just because of her friendship, I got this job. I don't like my wife to be so partial to this man. My relationship with my wife is getting worse day by day because I now had a strong suspicion that my wife was having an affair with this person. The suspicion not only belongs to me but also other colleagues think like that my wife was often going to lunch with this person and my wife often went to this person. Also, they both worked in the same office because my wife works as an assistant to this man. All these things were being unbearable for me. All these problems were going on in my life that one day my wife's health will become very bad. One morning when she came to wake me up in the room to go to the office, she fainted and fell down. I picked her up and took her to the hospital. I found out that she was pregnant. This good news is the greatest blessing for her father and the biggest happiness of his life. But I was not happy at all because our relationship was not going well. I suspected this. This child is not mine and it is the child of the same person who works with my wife in the office. But in this situation, I could not even ask her about that. But days and then months were passing by. One day, I had a big quarrel over a small matter with my wife in which I angrily told my wife that this child in your womb is not mine. After hearing this, my wife slapped me on the face and said, "This is yours." I became silent on her with such a confident answer. After that, my wife was rendered unconscious and her condition worsened considerably. In this condition, it could be dangerous for her and the baby's life. So I did not discuss this topic with her again throughout her pregnancy. I did not have any evidence against my wife. So I spoke to the computer operator there who was monitoring the interconnected camera towards the recording of the camera that was functioning in the office of that person. My aim was to find some evidence that would make me believe that my wife and this man were having an affair and that they were having an illicit relationship. I stayed up all night watching the recordings of his office. After a whole night of hard work, I finally found the recording that I was looking for, and it was proof against my wife that my wife and that person were having an affair with each other. In this camera recording, I saw that my wife and that person were kissing each other, sitting on the sofa of the office. And after seeing it, I had no courage to look at something else. And I was convinced that this child was not mine at all because my relationship with my wife was not going well during that period. So this child could not be mine. After 1 month, my fate ended and my wife gave birth or after the birth and divorced my wife because she was cheating on me. When I divorced my wife tried her best to get me out of that job in anger because the person she was having an affair with was in a good position and entitled to do that. He could have fired the employees. But now the situation was very different. When this person tried to fire me, I showed a video of both of them to boss in which he fired them both and kicked them out from the company after insulting them in front of all the employees. After bringing the secret of both in front of the boss, he gave me promotion and I got the same position that belonged to that person because he was working in a high position in the company. And thus the bad character of this person could harm the company. When I divorced my wife started claiming child expenses from me because she felt that I had delivered her life. And I considered that the child was mine. Whereas the reality was the opposite. I was very sure that this child was not mine and belonged to the person with whom my wife was having an illicit relationship. When I refused to pay the expenses of the child, my wife threatened me to take to the court. However, it did not happen. And I told her in a very sarcastic manner that of course you should arrange a lawyer if you're unable to pay your lawyer after your unemployment. And then we both will take this case to court so that everyone knows the truth that you had an affair with another guy. I threatened her for a DNA test that if you're right, then we will get the test done. Then if this child belongs to me, I'll pay all the expenses or if it is not mine. Everyone knows the truth. After that, my wife herself admitted the truth or accepted that she was cheating on me and that this child belongs to that person. But now what she can do because that person completely refused to marry her because he was also married and had 2 children. If he married her, his wife would have left him after that. My wife was completely alone. She apologized to me a lot, but I did not forgive her today. 3 years have passed since this incident when I divorced my wife. After 6 months, I married Hazel. She was my colleague. It is going very well. She's loyal to me and seemed a blessing to me. We have a very sweet daughter and I am living a peaceful life. I love Hazel and my